Hey everybody, welcome to Before College TV. I am Harlan Cohen, and today I am with University of Michigan college students. I mean, people love Michigan, right? Dewey, you love Michigan.
Yeah, of course I do. Got
Right,
rep
you
in the merch.
bleed.
I go here. I
This is
bleed
it.
maize and blue.
You bleed blue and yellow.
Yeah.
That's what you are, right? And Noelle, I know you love Michigan, right?
Love it. My favorite place on earth.
Yeah, you live right near Canada, but you won't go there because you want to stay in Michigan, right?
I want to stay in Michigan. I want to stay in Ann Arbor.
You love it. Cristian, you love Michigan?
Oh, I bleed blue.
You bleed, so they say bleed blue. They don't bleed yellow, just blue.
Well, that's our catchphrase is blue.
You bleed
So-
blue, right?
Yeah.
If you bleed yellow, then you're having a problem.
I think so.
Yeah.
There might be some. I think that's another school we're talking about.
Bleed yellow, if you bleed yellow, but you're yellow and blue. And then Mary, you love Michigan?
Of course I do.
You do. I say that to everybody because I know when I talk about Michigan, people fill up with pride. People love bleeding blue. It starts before you even get on campus, and it just continues your whole life. Dewey, we were just talking. You just moved to North Campus. You're in your new apartment. How's it feel?
It feels great. I'm very excited to be back on campus. I'm actually able to be where I love to be. I'm not home anymore. Tiny podunk town, nothing to do. It's just I'm just glad to be back.
So tell us about your podunk town and your high school experience. What we want to know, people who don't know Dewey, they need to know Dewey. So can you open up your door, Dewey, and show us what it was like to be you in high school? Describe you, the type of person you were, your experiences, just to paint a vivid picture for those who want to identify with you.
Yeah. So I'm from Reed City High School, tiny town way up here, about an hour north of Grand Rapids. Yeah, it's an indescribably small town. Whenever I say it, it's like, where is that? And I just have to do the mitten thing because you know where it is.
That's what you always do. You guys are all about
You got to use the mitten.
Man.
It's what we do. It's what we do.
Dewey. So tell me, what was it like to be you in this small, beautiful town in Michigan?
So kind of a big fish in a little pond mentality because I was top 3 of my class. I got straight A's for the most part. I was doing everything and anything and everything because that's all I could do. Yeah, and then I came here and it's pretty much the opposite.
You are a little fish in a big pond.
Now I'm a tiny fish in a big pond.
You're a podunk fish in a large town. I don't agree with that at all. I'm just using your vocabulary.
No, I've actually been called a hick before here. So because I act like I'm from the country. So they're like, oh, you're kind of a hick, and I'm like, eh.
But you like that.
It's just where I'm from. It's who I am.
Right. So you were a star student, and we're going to hear what happened when you arrived on campus, if you were still that bright star or if you started to question who you were and how you ended up here. So we'll continue. We'll hit the pause button. Noelle, great to meet you. Tell us about where you're from. Oh, you're so kind. Tell us your history.
So I'm from Port Huron, Michigan, right in the knuckle of the thumb. I can see Canada from my house. You keep just driving on 94 until you can't anymore, or you'll end up right over the border. So that's where I'm from, and I graduated from Port Huron High School. I was part of the 150th graduating class, so that's pretty cool. I'm just from a very diverse high school where we really valued sports and we valued education. I was salutatorian, so I was up there. I was also a cheerleader and NHS and everything that U of M loves when you apply to their campus. So I really love that my roots are here in Port Huron, but I love that I'm expanding out to Ann Arbor. So
Yeah, and this is great. I want to know if Michigan was your first choice or if there were other options, and I want to go and get everybody's college story too. But thanks, Noelle. So you were a cheerleader and National Honor Society. Salutatorian is right next to valedictorian, right?
Yep. Got an A- my senior year.
That's what did you in.
That's what bumped me to number 2.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, I still am a little angry about it because it was an AP calculus, and then I went to U of M and I aced my very first calculus class there, and I was like, dang it.
Right.
I can do it at U of M. I could have done it at PH, but it's all right. It's all right.
Right. You're competitive.
Yeah, a little bit, just a little
Yeah,
bit.
fire. I like that. Okay. Cristian, let us know. First of all, Cristian, what is that flag over your shoulder?
So the flag back behind me is the Argentinian flag. It's where I'm actually from before I came to the States.
You were born in Argentina?
I was in Buenos Aires.
Oh, very nice. And when did you move?
I moved to the States when I was at 8 years old, so 2003.
Wow. So you formed a lot of your life in Argentina. What language do they speak in Buenos Aires?
Spanish.
Spanish, because I know there's also Portuguese, but Spanish is from Buenos Aires. Do you speak fluent Spanish?
I do.
Yes, that's fantastic. And then tell us a little bit about you. Why don't we go from when you arrived here? What were you like? Were you quiet? Were you really loud? Were you an athlete?
Actually, there's a funny story I can tell you about that. But when I came here, it's kind of getting adjusted to the, new culture, new language, getting adjusted to a new life compared to what I used to have. And when I started around when I was in fifth grade, one of my teachers called me a parrot. My mom was very pissed, but that's her.
Called you a parrot? Why would someone call you a parrot?
Because I like to talk a lot, and I think I still do. My mom was furious. She was not happy, but and that was also another interesting conversation I was part of. But yeah, growing up, I just had to kind of be able to pick up really a lot of the language until like maybe I was pretty sure I was fluent around like seventh grade, sixth grade.
Right. Did your mom find that so insulting because you were learning the language, and that was almost not very empathetic?
No,
judgmental.
Part of it was that. I think the other part was I think he did it in front of some other students who saw me in fifth grade, and so and I'm usually like I wouldn't fight back, and I'm very reserved. I was very quiet. My personality didn't like match hers, so that's why she is like, no, that's not happening.
Right. And then were you an athlete? Were you a musical star? Were you like what was it just the life in the classroom? Tell us.
Yeah, of course. As I went to I went to Pekin High School in Peoria, and
out of state, everybody.
Yep, I was out of state. And when I was in high school, I pretty much went into tennis and scholastic bowl. And I really enjoyed that. Tennis is still the sport I play now, not as much obviously with COVID-19, but and off times is something I like to practice. But yeah, I mean, I mostly kind of went into the classroom, just kind of stick to my studies.
Scholastic Bowl, did you get a championship trophy?
I didn't.
Sorry to bring that up, but but it was incredibly helpful. And Scholastic Bowl is another thing. And I mention these specifics because if there's somebody out there and finds these things interesting, participate in these things. When Noelle was talking, she said NHS, that's National Honor Society. Right? That's an exciting thing. Mm-hmm. People at the Blue, Michigan, they like to see that. Mary, tell us a little bit about you, Mary. It's so good to see you. Where are you from? What was your background? Fill us in on you.
I'm from Sterling Heights, Michigan. So it's like 1 hour north of Detroit.
Okay.
And I grew up in the suburbs, but I went to Sterling Heights High School, and no one really cared about education. Like, there was obviously like the people who did, but it was kind of hard to like stay focused on education. So when coming to so I was top 10 at high school, but coming to Michigan, it was insane because everyone was focused on education, and then like the top 10 became like the bottom 10 in a sense. So yeah, it was kind of hard to adjust.
Oh, I want to hear all the details. So you're going to have to, we're going to come back to you because I'm also curious to hear about Duey. But what I want to know before we get into what it was like to actually be on campus in Michigan, coming from all of your different communities, what I'd like to know is, how did you even choose Michigan? What was that experience like going through the application process? And I also want everybody to understand you're all first generation students, correct? Mm-hmm. Right? Because you're also part of what organization at Michigan, Noelle?
The first generation college student organization.
Is it called the First Generation College Student Organization?
Mhm.
That's what it's called. That makes sense. It's a perfect name for it. You know exactly what it is.
Yep.
That's great. I love it. What else should it be? So you're all first-gen students, which adds another layer because as a first-gen student, you're the first family member to go to college in this country. And you have a lot of questions, and there isn't always people to answer those questions. And I think that's gives you an incredible edge just in terms of life, of being equipped to get wherever you want to go. Because if you're here and you're seniors and you're juniors, like you could do anything without a doubt. Like you agree with that?
Agree.
Yeah,
100%.
because you get your ass kicked a little bit, right? Like the first
lot of
couple
it.
years. A lot of it. We're going to hear about the ass kicking, Noelle. I'm excited. Okay. Duey, so tell me, how did you decide to go to Michigan? What was the application process? What was the hardest part? Kind of walk us through that college journey for you.
So I chose Michigan. A big part of it for me was cost. I'm pretty low income, so I had to stay like in state. And I chose Michigan as my top school because I originally was going to do astronomy. I was talking to a friend and we did astronomy classes, and I'm like, wow, this seems like a great career path for me. And they're the top astronomy school in the state. And I applied, but the trick was, well, the hardest part for me was I didn't know the dates of like deadlines and stuff because I was a bit behind on that. And I almost ran out of time. Admittedly, it was like final hours of like getting this in and getting it submitted. And it easily the hardest part because I put way too much pressure on myself. That was completely unnecessary.
Oh, this is good. So explain to us how the deadlines work and how you eventually were able to manage deadlines, because I know there are a lot of students who struggle with deadlines.
So the deadlines, they work like exactly like you think. They're deadlines. The problem was I didn't check them because I didn't look into it, and I thought like, oh, I have a ton of time because I didn't look at the timeline of like college because no one talks to you about that when no one goes to college. So it's like, should you be applying now? And I just, yeah.
When should you apply and when did you start?
Honestly, I don't totally remember, but it's been a minute. I'm going to my senior year. I don't remember exactly when I applied, just at the very tail end of the application timeline. And I manage my times now because I actually use Google Calendar and stay informed and email people and actually like take a proactive approach to it.
Right. And you were able to use the lessons of being bad at managing time.
Mm-hmm.
You had poor time management skills, Dewey, but yet you were what in your class?
I was like the top 3.
Isn't that amazing that you can be so terrible managing your time, but yet be top 3? Like, how do you do that?
So it was because everything came easy to me in the course. It was like in all my courses, they were like, oh, you have homework. And by the end of the class, I'd have it done and have an A. And it's just like, I don't need to manage my time. I have everything done. So yeah, I just like throw everything off to the side because like, oh, it's done. I got an A. It's like, it's whatever. I'm done.
Right. But then in college, you actually had to manage your time, and that was hard for you.
Yes, because college actually requires a fair bit of effort, turns out. And because you can't just do a final project at 12 o'clock midnight, the day of, and get it in. No, like you did in high school, because it's like several pages and pages and research, and it's just a lot more.
Right. So making an effort in college was very hard for you because you were used to making a minimal effort in high school.
Exactly. And especially one of my county doesn't like look on education favorably. They look at sports, so they kind of disregard it. So they don't want a ton of effort. So you don't need to put a ton of effort in if you're a bit intelligent.
Right. So you were able to use your intellect to boost you without having those other skills, which is so interesting to see. Because I'd love to, as we continue the conversation, I'd love to learn how you struggled, just navigating that change. I want to ask you one question about money. You said you were concerned about money. Mm-hmm. So did you know that University of Michigan would give you a lot of money? Are you on a full ride? Did you get a scholarship? Tell us about the money.
So at the application process time, money was a big thing because I was looking at places that would waive application fees because I didn't have $200-$300 to drop on just applying to places. I'm on the Go Blue guarantee at the moment, which is if your family makes less than like $55,000 a year, they cover tuition. And I have another scholarship it's specifically for my school. If you go into LSA or engineering, you get like $10,000 a semester, but it's only for my school, and it's something that's not talked about at all. So no one applies to U of M.
So now people know if they want to go into what school is it, Duey?
I'm currently doing anthropology and cognitive science at
So
LSA. Yeah.
LSA. So if you're interested in LSA and you're a low-income student who's going to the University of Michigan, Duey can fill you in on that. Did you apply for that scholarship, or did they just give it to you?
It's an automatic thing. Like when you apply for financial aid, they just like cross-check things like, oh, he qualifies, and then they just kind of give it to you.
And you could use that for room and board because you already had tuition paid.
Yeah.
Sweet. So you're like, your college is almost paid for you.
Ish, yeah.
Right. Then awesome. Okay. I want to ask a question of all of you, because this is another thing. I know that you said, Duey, you're a low-income student, and I've talked to a lot of students at lots of universities all over the country, public and private. And one of the things is if you're a low-income student, oftentimes you can get scholarships all over the country. I know that you were focused on Michigan, but Duey, did you think of going anywhere out of state?
It seems like a non-option, really, because the tuition hikes were it was just so much more in tuition and costs. So I didn't really bother looking out of state.
Right. But did you know that because of your low income status, that many of these schools, there are very highly selective schools that will give you 100% assistance? Did anyone tell you about that?
Honestly, no. Like no one talked about it because my parents didn't go to college and my school didn't value education really. So it just didn't really come up.
Right. Well, they did. I always feel bad because it's like they didn't value education, but you did get an education.
I did get one. Yes.
Right. Just in terms of the wide range of options that a student in your situation could be. And because for graduate school, you can go anywhere. It's really remarkable to see that. And, I'm really curious. I'll be curious to hear the rest of your stories and how you made your choices. Noelle, tell me a little bit about your college application journey.
So, little opposite of Duey, August 1st came out. I was on the Common App. I was like, let's get this done. I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm pumped because I wanted to get it by early action and then just enjoy the rest of my senior year. So that application came out August 1st. I think I submitted it September 1st, had people read over my essays and fill it out, and that was that for me.
So how did you know that the deadline was August 1st? How did you know to get your college essays done? How did you know to take your SATs or ACTs the previous spring?
Mm-hmm. So our school at PH actually paid for all of our SATs. So we took all of that together on a collective day and did SATs together. And of course, if you didn't like your score, you could retake it at another location, but you paid for that one. So we all took the SAT together, and then we got our scores. And I remember I had to Google when deadlines were. I was Googling U of M deadline for application, and everything that I saw was like November 1st was early action. So I knew that's when I had to get it done.
Right. So the deadline, just real quickly by like a show of hands, Cristian and Mary, were the deadlines tough for everybody? Were the deadlines hard for you? Did deadlines throw you at all? Or was it easy for you?
Not really, just because I'm like pretty good at time management, like naturally. So I didn't like do it on August 1st, but I knew the deadline was on November 1st. So I took some time out of my October and just kind of got it done, like a Saturday.
Great. I have to ask Noelle one more question. Noelle, did you only apply to the University of Michigan?
No, the University of Michigan was actually the only school in Michigan that I applied to. I applied to I think 10 schools in total, and the rest of them were out of state.
And did you get accepted to every single one of these?
I did.
You got into all the schools?
Yeah, I did.
Wow. What are a couple others that were was there another contender before you made the Michigan decision?
Yes. For the longest time, I wanted to go to like Stanford or Duke or Vanderbilt or something like that. But whenever I toured those places, it was kind of like it was a little bit stoic. I didn't think I could be human there necessarily. I think I was like, I'm a little too low income in Port Huron to go to this place. So everyone else, they just seemed like they had it all together. They're a legacy. They come from, old money or something like that. And I just didn't feel like home to me. So
you got into Stanford
yes. Mm-hmm.
and you got into Duke.
Yes.
And you chose to go to the University of Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing because those places are really hard to get into. I mean, Stanford's like close to impossible. And you rejected Stanford.
I did. I said, toodaloo.
How does that happen? Like you said you just didn't feel like it was your place. Did you talk to other people from similar backgrounds or did you just tell me?
So that was the thing is like I knew I'm the only one from my family that's going to school. So, you look at the website is just perfect. It's this beautiful campus with all these opportunities and this and that. And I wasn't really able to see any resources that I felt like I identified with because I was so proud to be a first gen student even before I went to college. I'm like, this is great. Like, I feel like I'm doing it. And here I am, I'm going. And so when I didn't really see a lot of things for like first gen or like women in science, I just kind of felt like, maybe it's not for me. But then when I toured the places, it just felt like, yep, it was just robots. You had to act like this, be like this, and kind of mix in with everybody. Where at U of M, I'm like, we got the academics, we got the athletics, we have first gen, we have all these opportunities that I'm aware of and that they, just plastered all over their website to make it accessible. And
yeah.
I think U of M is really proud to have a diverse set of students from different backgrounds and everything like that.
Yeah, well, that's fascinating. I just had a really cool conversation with some first-gen Duke students, and actually, it was one of the students. Actually, I can't remember if he was a founding member, but Andy, you could help me out. He was very involved with Duke First, which was an organization, and it's interesting because I don't know if there is one at Stanford. I'll have to check, but it seems that there's a movement to really do exactly what you said is to create a world where if you're a first-gen student, with open arms. Actually what's interesting is Jamal, who shout out to Jamal at Duke. He's a founding member of Duke First. He just founded this group within the past year or two. So
that's awesome. Love that.
Yeah. And I think what would be really cool is if first-gen students at lots of different campuses could actually come together and have, whether it's an association or something where you could all connect because, the journeys, the obstacles, the challenges that start long before college. I just think collectively you all just can do such good work and you're amazing. So that's great. And Noelle, you're also, I know, a mentor. I was learning. So if anybody has questions about Michigan, about these experiences, Noelle, Cristian, Mary, Duey, you're all open to answering questions, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Like you want to. You like that.
I want people to ask me questions.
Like you want someone to ask you. That's great. It's the opposite of rejection. These people are not going to say no. They're going to say yes. Cristian's going to talk your ear off, right, Cristian?
I am. That's going to be me.
That's what you love to do. So Cristian, tell me about your. I tell you, I'm still dumbfounded, Noelle. You did not get rejected at all. It's amazing.
Thanks.
We're going to talk about some of your other rejection because I want to know. You had to have gotten rejected somewhere along the line, right?
Me? Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, once I got to U of M, it was like rejection. And I was like, awesome. This is great.
Wow. Okay. All right. We're going to dig into that. Sorry, Cristian. It just occurred to me. I'm like the king of rejection. I don't know about you. Did you get rejected a lot, Cristian?
I mean, it depends what we're talking about. We're talking about relationships. That's different.
You get rejected. That's your sweet spot for rejection?
I mean, I am just a little fish in a big pond, so.
Oh, a little fish with a big heart and lots of love, right?
Of course. Lots of love.
That's right. If anybody's watching this and they're interested in Cristian, as of right now during this conversation, I believe, can I mention your relationship status?
You can. Yeah, I'm single.
Single. We got single, open, interested in meeting someone. I think it's great. You know, I think it's always good to put it out there because you know what? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? You know, you get hurt. Someone says yes. Someone says no. Right, Christian?
Exactly.
Amazing.
Move on.
Right. You get to go to Argentina. You get to go. Do you still have family in Buenos Aires?
I do. My uncle still lives out there. My family still lives out there.
You get to meet Christian. You form a relationship. You go visit his uncle in Buenos Aires.
Oh yes, I love to travel the world. Michigan actually allowed me to do that.
Michigan,
Under Michigan, I got to travel 5 countries, mostly conferences and then internships over the summer.
Ooh, okay. I want to hear that. I want to know how you chose Michigan. I want to know your application journey. How did you even know you were worthy? How did you make this decision, Christian?
Yeah, so I applied with a normal deadline, and one of my biggest looks was really because I wanted to be a doctor originally. I think like a lot of people, but I was also interested in public health, and so I know University of Michigan had a superb and one of the top schools in the country for public health, and so that's one of the reasons why I decided to apply out of state. I mean, you do have U of I and then you have UIC, but Michigan is top rank in public health. So I was being very specific, but I didn't apply just to Michigan. I also applied to WashU, which I also got in, but Michigan gave me more money. So WashU tried to poach me and that gave me some extra money. But then I said no because I wanted to come to Michigan. And one of the reasons was because Michigan is just such a big connected school, not just being top ranked public health school, but also so many other schools, top ranked engineering school, top ranked public policy school, which I'm also part of, as well as many other schools.
Yeah. So you applied to WashU. Did you apply to any schools and not get in?
I did went for a long shot to University of Toronto abroad, but I got turned down from that.
How'd that feel? Was that upsetting?
It was a little bit, I will say. I was kind of highballing that one, just because it's as an international student, it's a bit, the process is a bit harder to get accepted into a program, and also like funding in terms of be able to pay for the program. So one end yes, but the other end no. Right. I think I'm still pretty happy about my decision.
And then when it came to money, did you get a scholarship? Did you apply for a scholarship? Tell me about your experience.
Yeah, I applied for a scholarship when I was applying, and that's how I got it. The funding for now.
For tuition, room and board, or what are they? If we can get specific. Tuition. So just so people understand, tuition is a very big help. I mean, the tuition for out of state would be how much, Christian? What would the sticker price be for tuition for University of Michigan?
For here, so the thing about out of state in Michigan, it is double with the in-state tuition, which is around between 20, 25,000, depending on your how many credits. And
so tuition's about 50,000.
Yeah.
Right, $50,000. So you got that. So for people who are in this situation and understand that, like, the sticker price doesn't really matter when you're coming from a situation where you don't have a lot of expected contribution. So then the room and board piece is still probably about 10 to 15,000, right?
Yeah.
Dewey, it's about, isn't that what it costs for you?
About, yeah.
Yeah. And then you had 10,000 covered with that additional scholarship. So Christian, how are you able to pay room and board?
One of the things, I've just applied for scholarships for across campus.
More scholarships. Which ones?
My scholarship would be, for example, with the Center for it's women's education, but they cover other communities and provide scholarships for other communities who are part of that. It's strictly for women. It's also for other parts of communities. So I applied.
How did you know about that?
I found it through a newsletter from my program.
You actually read the newsletter?
Yeah, they send out newsletters. Every program I'm part of, they send out newsletters about these opportunities to really seek out scholarships to supplement what you have.
So you got your money, you got in, you got this nice offer, then you were in, but you still needed the room and board piece. So you said, I'm going to figure that out. You read this newsletter, and then you applied to this and to others as well, I would imagine?
Yeah.
And you have everything covered now?
Yeah, for the most part. But
Amazing.
I have to pay for some of it loans. Say about 90% is covered, but
Then you took some loans.
yes.
This is good. And if anybody else took loans, one of the things I've discovered is people don't like to talk about their loans, right? They don't like to talk about it. Some people would rather live in their car and take a loan because just culturally, there's a lot of fear, or I just think people don't want to have debt. So Cristian, tell me that piece of, as much as you're willing to share, and this is the part where like I push, but I know if there's someone out there who has, someone who's out of state and they get a lot of money and it's still like they need $5,000 a year or whatever, tell us about the loan part.
Yeah, the loan. So my loans are coming from the federal government. So most of the loans I've taken are subsidized, meaning that interest doesn't accrue while you're in school, which is compared to subsidized, which is it does while you're in school. And the process is through the FAFSA. When you apply for FAFSA, you apply to be able to be applicable for loans, and there's a certain amount depending on the year you're in school, and there's a limit of that.
So for you, are you comfortable sharing how much in loans you had to take?
I took about between, I'm trying to remember. Well, right now I'm taking like 10K.
Is that so? When you'll graduate with how much roughly in loans?
My goal would be like 20-30, which is
okay.
Reasonable. Just
right.
Given the how crazy college debt is with other students, but that's kind of where I'm going.
So if you graduate with $20,000 to $30,000 of student loans, and thank you for being so generous in offering this, because I don't think people understand this, and I think especially with the money part, first generation students, it's something there isn't a lot of dialogue. Would you agree with that? Like people don't talk about this a lot.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's not a tough conversation.
Yeah, and it can be very difficult because money's very personal and there's a lot of feelings associated with it. But when you graduate, do you know roughly how much it will cost you each month to repay that debt, those loans? Have you done the math?
I have not done the math, but I can assume like usually it would be around 10% of the loan every month. But obviously when you finish, you have to sort that out with the loan department that you are handling your loan. And so from there, it's like, it depends, there's a lot of factors to it. Like if I'm going to get a job, a good paying job, then we have to discuss the how much I'm going to be paying for that. Am I paying like a certain percentage?
Sure.
Just paying the minimum, there's a lot of discussion. Or am I like consolidating my loans? Because loans come from very, 1 year it will come from one department, but then with a different interest. And then from another year it will come from another department. If I got another loan, let's say with my parents, the Parent Plus loan, then it would be different interest, different company. And so if you want to consolidate that, all the loans into one, and you come up with just one interest, then you have to pay that amount. So it's a lot of discussions back and forth before you graduate.
Right. I bet it's very dizzying right now. For some people listening, they probably shut down. When they heard the word subsidized, they were like, I don't know what he's talking about. But let me ask you, there has to be someone who helped you. Is there someone in the financial aid office who's been really resourceful for you, a great resource?
Yeah, the people of financial aid that I emailed, especially in my department, has been very helpful to kind of figuring out the funding and loan aspect and being able to kind of think about that. But like since I'm also first gen, my parents never went through the education system here, so a lot of the stuff I have to kind of figure out and kind of reach out to people to kind of figure it out.
So just to offer some insight, this is what I've learned is, when talking about student debt and loans, one of the thoughts is you don't want to graduate with more debt than what you will earn your first year out of college. So the example of if you're going to get a job for $40,000 a year, you don't want to have more than that amount of money in loans. And this is just, I'm not a professional. I'm just throwing this out there, but you can talk to someone about this as well. But what you can also do, Cristian, and this is what I recommend for anyone to do, is you can go to a loan calculator and you could actually put in the amount that you are going to leave with, the amount that the loan is going to be, then you can see whether you have a 10-year or 15-year repayment plan. That $20,000-$30,000 is going to be incredibly manageable, and it's not going to be thousands of dollars a month to repay. It's going to be a lot less. But the value of having that and having a place to sleep, being able to manage your life, being able to do the things to invest in you, the key is you got to graduate, right? Like if you're going to take out any student debt, you have to graduate because you got to repay it. That's where people end up in trouble. So,
And something else that I would like to point out on that is that, so currently I work as a data analyst for Blue Shield California as an intern. And so I had the opportunity to make some income in the summer. And so being able to pay off the loan as well, so that, when you reduce the amount of you owe, the interest goes down and you pay less in the future. And so that's kind of what my tactic has been as well.
So anytime you make extra money, you start repaying that loan even before you graduate.
Yep.
Yeah.
How did you know that? Sorry, Noelle.
With that too, with my loans that I have, I think I have about $8,000 in loans right now. I think I'll graduate maybe around 12. But what I do is, because there's unsubsidized and subsidized, so there's some that are gaining interest right now. So every month I'll just pay off whatever the interest is and then get it down to my principal balance. So sometimes it's like $37 a month. And then that way I'm not gaining interest on my interest to make it more expensive, because I know there's a lot of times people are paying off their loans for years after school, and it's mainly just the interest that really kicked them and made it as high as it is. So I just pay that off every month, and then I'm like, all right, balance is back down to zero, even though the balance is $8,000. But
right. So your strategy is to pay the interest so that you don't accumulate more interest on top of the interest, which is the compounding effect of having that continue to accumulate. How did you know to do that, Noelle?
I Googled. I was like, I don't know what to do. 'Cause I'm like, there's so many loans, and I've seen a bunch of things about how really it's the interest that really gets people. And they're like, I'm paying $900 a month, or I paid $10K, and that's all my loan was, and I still have $10K left to pay or something like that. So they're like, it's the interest that gets you. And I'm like, well, I don't want interest. I want to get that out of there. So I was like, I'll just make a payment every month and then call it good. So
right. And let me ask you, and anybody can jump in, if you have your scholarships that pay for full room and board, then what are you using the loan money for?
The loan automatically it automatically shows up on my financial aid because it's through FAFSA and federal funding. So those will automatically just pop up, and you can see that you can either accept or decline those. And I always accept them because I always end up paying just a little bit each semester after all of my scholarships and grants and financial aid and things like that. So it still just doesn't cover all of the price, because according to your FAFSA, they only give you X amount, and it doesn't cover the rest of what you have unless you go in an outside company or something like that.
Great. All right. Thanks for going into the weeds a little bit on that. I haven't really dove into that, and it's so important, and it's something maybe I might do another college conversation where we can just do like a full money talk, because I just think if we can do something and just go from like FAFSA through your senior year and even get a financial expert on board that we can all like chat with, would you be open to that potentially?
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Oh, that would be cool. I would love, that would be good. It's like, where do people get this if they're not in a program in high school, right? Mary, you're the most patient person in the world. My goodness, Mary. Thank you for being so patient. Tell me your college journey. How did you pick the University of Michigan? Where else were you looking to go? And what were any of the highs and lows of that experience?
Well, to be honest, University of Michigan for me was a reach. So I didn't even think I was going to get into this school, just because of like my high school. They only University of Michigan only accepts like 3 to 4 people every year from my high school. So when I was applying to near colleges and universities. So I only applied Michigan State, but I knew I was going to go there because they don't really offer that much financial aid. that was what, again, like everyone, that was a big factor, the money, and Oakland University, and then Wayne State. And initially, I was gonna go to Wayne State because I did not think I was gonna get into Michigan.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's basically what it was. And then in December, I got the little acceptance letter. I was like, oh, so that happened.
That's exciting. So you must have passed out. Like, were you freaking out? What was your
Oh
reaction?
yeah, so I was actually at an NHS e-board. I also was in NHS. I was in my e-board meeting, and then after the meeting, I was in the car, and I was like, oh great, like the applications, the acceptance letters and the decisions are out. And my mom was like, just open it, and I was like, but should we get home first? She's like, no, it's okay, because she didn't think I was gonna get in either.
Why did you
And
think
then,
you weren't going to get in?
well, it's just because like I said, my high school wasn't that great, so the like especially for the standardized tests, we didn't have that much opportunities. So I think our average SAT score was 900, so it wasn't like that great.
What did you get on your SAT, if I can ask? Are you comfortable sharing?
Yeah, it's okay. I got a 1290,
Great. Okay.
and yeah,
That's
so
good. Were you happy?
yeah, but I was okay, like, because just the amount, like I said, the average was 900 at my school, so being like that much above, I was like, okay, that's good, but in terms of like the top 10, like the people who were in top 10, I was like 100 points below them, so I was kind of like
Mm-hmm. So you weren't.
so when I yeah, and then I saw Michigan's average, I think, was a 1440 or something. So I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm gonna get into this school. But again, I was like, I'll just try. And then if it doesn't work out, like I have Wayne State right there.
Right.
So
You've got Wayne. You
yeah.
always have Wayne. Wayne's by your side. So did when you got in, did you get a lot of money, or did they not offer you as much because your grades were a little bit lower?
No, actually, like, okay, at first I got like FAFSA and then the Go Blue guarantee. And then I still needed like, I think 6,000 or something. But then in August, right before we actually moved in, it was very surprising because I actually got another scholarship out of the blue. It was a $14,000 scholarship. It was a donor scholarship, and apparently they picked like my profile. I don't know why, but I was very grateful for that.
Oh, that's so great. Are you always lucky, Mary?
Seems
I
like
mean, not really. I feel like I don't know. No,
Because it
because
sounds like amazing.
well, yeah, but again, it was just kind of my GPA was probably the thing that kind of like boosted, like even though I got that SAT, it was the GPA because
What was
ours
your
were
GPA?
weighted. It was a 4.4, so it was like it was it was weighted. So I
Does
don't
that
really
include gym?
know.
Is that gym and art?
I actually didn't have to take gym because I was I was a theater student, so we
Okay.
were kind of like we didn't have to take that.
Awesome.
We
So,
had dance.
and then you got this money, so you're in good shape. And are those scholarships for every year? Do they automatically renew, or do you have to keep looking for money every year?
Sadly, no. Like the freshman year scholarship, I'm a rising sophomore, so I'm kind of like I'm still new to everything. But the donor scholarship was only for that year, and I don't know if I'm gonna get another one because again, I said it was like late August when I got that one, and school was starting. So I'm still hopeful, but
Yeah.
if not, it's okay. Like well, since I got that scholarship, I got a refund check because I got more money than I actually needed to pay for school. So
Right.
if I do have to pay, I have some money left over from last year.
Right. So that's really helpful. So for some of these awards, if you get more money than you actually need, instead of that money going out into the universe, they'll actually give you a check for X amount of thousands of dollars with the understanding you'll probably use that for your education.
Well, technically, it's only as much as they think the cost of attendance is. So last year, I think the cost of attendance was 31,000. And so even though I got a 14,000 like a dollar scholarship, they would subtract like University of Michigan would subtract their scholarship, and then FAFSA would subtract their scholarship until you got to like the 31,000.
Okay, until you got, and then it just so happens there was some extra from this past year. Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Okay, so I want to know about your places. One of the things that I often will talk about is places. Places are where people sweat, play, pray, live, learn, lead, love, and work, okay? That's a mouthful. You don't have to remember it. There's no quiz. But places are where you find relationships. It's where you establish your friendships. It's where you meet each other. This is a first-generation group of students. This is an organization, so this is a place. And a lot of you, which is cool, like, you don't know each other, do you? Like, have any of you met face-to-face?
No.
But you will potentially this fall, right? This is
Well,
great.
now we know each other, so.
Yeah, you're going to be like, hey, Mary. Hey, Dewey. Hey, Christian. Or let's
What's up, man?
hang
How's it
out.
going? Yeah.
Hi, hey,
High
Noelle.
five on campus, you know.
Yeah. Do you guys do any of you have masks with you? So we can see what you look like with your mask? So you'll recognize each other?
I don't have one in my room.
Okay.
My-
Yeah,
My mask is in my car, but it's a Michigan one, so.
that's cool, right? It's always helpful. Or just go like this. Take your thing and just go like this. Okay, now we can all see each other.
Got it.
Now you can
Now I
recognize
know
each
who
other.
everyone is. on
Right.
campus.
Because this is what you're going to need this year. Okay, so places. So I've asked you kind of to get a sense of your places, and I would love for other people to know where you found your connection, your friends, your relationships, and we can do kind of like a speed round with this. I think I'll just start with Noelle.
All right.
Before we get started, I want to know your places, Noelle, but I want people to know that you are a rocket science engineering with a minor in astrophysics.
Yeah.
This is your area of focus. You are a rocket scientist.
Yes.
That's
my goal.
That is fascinating. This is so exciting. But tell me about your places at the University of Michigan.
So my places are within, like these past 2 years, it's been my dorm room because I was a part of a learning community called MRADS, the Michigan Research and Discovery Scholars. So that's where first year students can conduct research with faculty members on campus. And that was like an amazing opportunity for me because it wasn't only geared toward research, but you're living with everybody else who's in this program. So that's why it's called a learning community. You're all in the same dorm, pretty much all on the same floor. And it's not just like, here, we're helping you with research, but it's like, here's this building on campus. Here's what I wish I knew my freshman year. And my peer mentor that year made a huge impact on me. So my sophomore year, I wanted to be a peer mentor as well. So I applied and I got accepted as a peer mentor for that. So I helped out first gen students and my mentees. I showed them around all their classes before the first day. I was like, we're not looking like deer in headlights on the first day. All right, guys, like, come on, let's go. Let's find it and let's do it. So MRADS has been a really great community that I've been a part of these past 2 years. I also, this past year, had 3 jobs on campus, so I was really able to make connections that way since most of them were community service. So I worked at one of our academic advising offices at the front desk, so talking to other students, checking students in, having a light conversation with them. And then I also worked in the community center at my dorm, where they check out packages, or if you get locked out, you come down, or if you just need help with anything, really, you just go to the community center and talk about it. And so I was able to meet a lot of people throughout my dorm, not only in my learning community, but people who are on the other floors in my dorm as well, and talk to them and make some connections.
Nice. So those are great places. Amazing. What was I going to ask you? Oh, do you go to football games?
All the time. Every single one I can go to, even if it's away.
Right. You all love football, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Blue. It's an amazing team. What a awesome. It sounds great. That it's so interesting. The rocket science piece. I'm going to ask everyone this question, but Noelle, I just want to know, as a rocket science engineering major with a minor in astrophysics, have you ever failed a class or gotten a D or like bombed a quiz?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. couple exams here and there were a little rocky, and I'm just like, dang it, like this is what I love and this is what I want to do. And it's all throughout high school, I'm sure all of us can agree, it was just kind of a breeze, you know? We never failed, we never had to study, and then we get here and it's literally rocket science, and I'm like, no problem. And then I'm like, what do you mean I got a 46 on my exam? What is that? So there's been times where it's like having an identity crisis, or do I belong? Or so one time I called my dad and I was just really discouraged, and I was like, I studied so hard for it day in and day out and I still didn't do well. I'm like, I don't even know if I belong here and this and that. And he's talking to me and he's calming me down. And at the end of the call, I was like, you know what? I'm Noelle freaking Fleury. I'll bounce back. No big deal. I got it. So
Yeah.
that's how I go into everything like I'm Noelle freaking Fleury. And actually before every exam now, I listen to the Michigan football hype video that's narrated by James Earl Jones. So who's an alumni of U of M. And I just get hyped up like I'm at a football game. I'm like, I'm going to crush this exam. I got it. Noelle freaking Fleury. And that's my attitude now. So, and then when you get a 46 back, it's like, okay, well, just got to do better next time, go to a couple more office hours. So
Yeah. Well, you're great at smiling through it, but were you crying when you got your 46? I mean, did you break down? Because you got a really strong presence and you exude confidence, but like, were you curled up in the fetal position, like sobbing, or like, were you, angry?
Yeah.
Like, tell us.
I was just angry because I'm like, you know what? I studied hard for that. And, you know, you get a 46, but then later you'll realize like the average was like a 62 or something, or maybe the average was an 89, and oh, yep, you failed that. So I'll be angry about it for 10 minutes, you know, but I don't like to sulk in it, because then like I can't feel bad for myself like it's my fault that I got a 46, you know. It wasn't an unfair test if another kid got an 89 or whatever. So I give myself 10 minutes. I'm angry about it. I'll beat myself up over it, but that's all I give myself. Then you got to pick yourself up. You got to move on. Got to just do better next time.
Yeah, that's a great attitude. It sounds like, Duey, you've had to deal with those 10 minutes multiple times. Because Duey, you were telling us about, I don't want to get sidetracked. Okay, I want to hear about your academic debacle. But Duey, tell me your places. Where are the places you found connection, community, friends, that good feeling that you were looking for?
So dorms, huge one again, like Noelle said. Just a great way to bond. And I was also living in a learning community my sophomore year. It was just the sophomore experience where you learn to be like what it's like to be on campus a bit more. And another major one is the casual gaming club. It's just like, it's a really casual environment where we all bond over like games and just have a really fun time together.
What kind of games are you playing now?
So mostly just tabletop Magic and like video games, because I can't see any of my friends. I play with them remotely now.
Yeah. So that casual gaming club, you wear casual clothes, I imagine, no suits.
I mean, we did for a few events because we were trying to get funding, but yeah.
Right. So you guys started the casual gaming club?
I didn't, but I was vice president there for a while.
Nice. And then you guys will get together and you'll game in a group. Everybody's invited. Everybody's accepted. You don't reject anyone?
Yeah, no, like come as you are. It's like, we're just here to have fun. It's casual. It's like, we will reject no one. It's just a great time for everyone.
Right. How did you learn about it?
So I actually ran into them at Festival, and they had like their little flag and they were handing out candy, and they caught my attention and they gave me a pamphlet, and I'm like, this sounds like my jam. I should go.
And you went, and they were nice.
And I went, and the officers there were like, hey, we're blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, wow, it's so great to meet you. And then we all just started playing games together, and we started getting to know each other. And it was just, a great time.
That's awesome. So the casual gaming club. And then what are some of the other places?
MSTEM, that's another huge one. It's a transitionary program between high school and college, where you take classes and get acquainted with campus and get to know what college life is a bit more like. And I was recently the facilitator for this year's MSTEM students, where I got to know them better. I gave them advice, and I just kind of guided them on their way through remote learning and getting towards college.
What advice did you give them? What was your most wise advice, Duey?
My most sagely advice, don't beat yourself up too much, because a lot of them were like, I didn't do well on this test, and I'm like, hey, like, this is just learning experience. You failed the test, but this is a very low stakes scenario. We're not grading you, but like, take this, learn what you did wrong, and do better when it comes to like the real test.
Yeah, that's a gift, because I know a lot of students at University of Michigan are high achievers who are used to grades being a reflection of their value. So to have someone who's an upperclassman to be like, no, and Noelle, I love your story. And Duey, you were saying you struggled a lot in the classroom. What was your worst struggle in the classroom, Duey?
I like, for specifically, Stats 250. It's an infamously hard course here. I had unresolved like attention issues that didn't get covered. So I just like, I go to class and I would just space out and I wouldn't absorb any of the material and I would try to study. And it's just nothing that came to me, because like we said in high school, we didn't study. And it's just a skill I hadn't learned at that point.
I'm curious if you're willing to share. You mentioned some undiscovered attention issues. Can you share with us how you discovered that, how that impacted you, how you got help for that?
So I learned it was like a thing because I was talking to my friends and I'm like, yeah, I'm having problems. So it's like, I can't read really, and I can't focus, and I'd space off constantly. And they're like, are you okay? Have you gotten this looked at? And I'm like, wait, that's not normal. And then I went to CAPS, which is the psychological services on campus, which I highly recommend if they need them. And they were like, yeah, you should probably go to a psychiatrist to get this checked out. And then I went through like a cycle of meetings to figure out, like, narrow down what could be the problem. And then we ended up learning that I have some unresolved attention issues.
Wow. That's wild, because you've been so successful. Then this class that just crushes everybody, it wasn't necessarily how you were studying, but there was this underlying problem and you had the courage to get help. Was it hard to do that?
Oh, like 1,000%. It felt awful because there's a lot of stigma around getting like mental health help. And people seem to like discount that. It's one of the major problems with college students, in my opinion, where they're like, I'm fine. Like, no, you're stressed out. You need to like learn to breathe. Like, you need some help. Like, calm down. Like, yeah, it was very difficult.
So who helped you? How were you able to take that step to actually get that help?
Honestly, like my significant other, they were like, have you made that appointment? And I'm like, no. And they're like, Dewey, make the appointment. And I'm like, okay. And then I just started getting into a cycle of it, because once I started going, I became more accountable to the psychiatrist rather than just myself. And it made it easier to get that going.
And how did it impact your grades and your ability to stay focused?
I can actually like do readings and pay attention in class and take legible, comprehensible, great notes that I can read later.
Wow, that's amazing. And for anybody who is thinking, wow, CAPS, getting help, that's too expensive. How are you able to pay for that? I know the answer, but I'm kind of like giving you a softball.
Yeah. So CAPS is a service provided to students free of charge. And any costs that may occur can be covered by insurance, and the university does offer insurance to students for a bit of an extra cost.
You take advantage of that?
I actually have insurance through my parents at the moment.
Right. So you're able to do it through that, which is great. I have a therapist. I talked to my therapist today, and it was great. I just think the accountability, having someone who has a different last name is great. There's no judgment. And this dude has to listen to me, got no choice. It's being paid to listen to me. And then I just vomit all over him emotionally. And I move on, and it's joyful. I know from the other conversations I've had with first-gen students, especially many with really strong cultural ties, culturally the idea of asking for help isn't something that people have been trained to do. So thanks for sharing that. I'm just so grateful for the gifts when you offer that. Cristian, I want to know where you know what? Cristian, I'm gonna come back to you because poor Mary, she's always last. Mary is distinct. Are you okay with that, Cristian? Can I ask Mary her places?
Go ahead. I like to hear.
Mary, Let me
Yeah.
know, where are your places at the University of Michigan where you found connection, community? I know you're a rising sophomore, so tell me about that first year.
Well, I was actually accepted to a learning community too. It was the Health Science Scholars program, HISP, and I met two of my very good friends, um, best friends, I guess. Yeah, there we were actually, one of them was my roommate, and another one lived across the hall. So I'm very grateful for that. I was also in another program called the Undergraduate Research Scholars Program, Europe. So I was able to meet some more friends there, and I got to conduct some amazing research. Hopefully, I can do it again this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also one more, I was currently my ethnicity is being Chaldean. So I found the Chaldean American Student Association on campus. And luckily, I was also selected to be the secretary this year. So I'm very excited.
How many people are in the Chaldean Association?
Well, not a lot. There's only like 100 of us because, yeah, our group isn't very like known to go to Michigan because our parents are very strict. So a lot of them don't like it when their kids go away for college.
Really? I'm not familiar with being Chaldean. Can you help me to understand?
Yeah, we're a small, well, not very small, but we are about 1 million people in Iraq who've immigrated to mostly in Michigan, California, or Arizona. So it's a very small community. A lot of people don't know who we are, but yeah, we're staying strong.
So going to University of Michigan, leaving your community, that's not something that's typical of Chaldean families?
No, not at all, especially for girls, because we're placed on like a lower pedestal. So, yeah. So,
Explain how you were able to do that. If, let's say, there's a Chaldean child or somebody who comes from a similar culture or background and they really aspire to go to college, you're here. How did you do it?
I kind of begged and begged. Like my parents always wanted me to go to college, but they always wanted me to commute, so I would do my college stuff and then come home. But I just begged and begged and begged. And like at one point I was just like, I'm gonna do this.
Right.
Can we just, yeah, it actually came down to the last very day, decision day, I think the day right before that. And I was like, guys, I need an answer like right now, and I'm not taking no for an answer. So
Right. And your parents reluctantly said yes.
yeah, because like I would just beg them so much.
So begging is the
Yes.
solution, is to beg,
Yeah.
beg. And now someone could beg and they can connect with you. There's also CASA, the Chaldean American Student Association. So if there's someone who wants to beg, they can also beg and find other people to point parents to, you included. So I just think that piece of how do you get there is just, that's the hardest part, right? Like
Yeah, it is.
you're all here and you continue to be here. And it's remarkable. And I didn't know, Mary, thank you for sharing that, because that's really interesting, because a lot of people come from communities where their parents don't want them to leave. They're afraid. Has this year in Michigan, did you morally do a lot of things that were awful and against your tradition? And did you go absolutely crazy? And were you reckless, arrested, failing? Like, what bad things happened? Or did bad things not happen?
Well, okay. So the first semester I did kind of go a little crazy because it was like
Oh
my
no.
first. No, well, not crazy. Not crazy. I'm very responsible. All my friends
What is
would say I'm
crazy for
very.
you? Explain this.
It was just like a sense of freedom, because like at home you would have a curfew of like 8 o'clock, and like at Michigan, there's no parents, so you'd stay over your friend's dorm until like 2 a.m. No one can stop you.
What would
You
you
know
be
what I mean?
doing at the dorm?
Well,
Oh no. Maybe I'm asking too many questions. I'm trying to paint a very clean picture so that I'm trying to help all these other students.
but we would just hang out and
Nothing bad. You wouldn't break rules.
no,
You're too honest.
For the most part.
Right. You were safe. You were responsible. You
Right.
never got
And
arrested. Right.
Oh, no.
Right. What were you gonna say,
Right.
Mary?
I just also feel like I know like a lot of people can relate to this, even though like our parents are very strict on us, like culturally strict. I did feel like it gave me the right morals, like because I did know a lot of people who came in like went to University of Michigan having this like sense of freedom, and they went like absolutely bonkers because like they've never experienced it before, and they were just like they like kind of not in a sense like resented their parents, but like didn't like how they took away their opportunities.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like doing it despite of their parents. So I am like very grateful for my parents, even though like I've lived like a very strict life. I also applied the morals that they kind of taught me when I did go to college.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know. And if there's other people who are from similar backgrounds, they've got you. And was there anyone else who came from a pretty strict background? Anybody else? We all kind of were able to be a little free in high school. It's a big change. But you're here and you're back and you're doing great. You didn't lose your scholarship, and you're excelling and you're doing great work. Cristian, tell me your places, man. I want to know where you hang out, make your friends, do what you do.
Yeah, so one of the clubs that I'm part of that I wanted to mention was La Casa, which is a club organization that was formed about 6 years ago because it wasn't a solidified organization for Latino students. And so that was one of the clubs I am part of, and I met a lot of good friends and people who I share a lot of my history and a lot of the background that I share, first gen Latino student, immigrant. And so I met a lot of my friends throughout my time here in Michigan there. I also do go to the coffee shots at the International Institute. So I love meeting international students just because I think that their experience is so much radically different than mine. And having coming from another country, young age, I'm very Americanized, but I love to be connecting with international students just to hear what do they do, how do they manage, and just become friends, because I think that's really something really great that I love to hear. I love to hear how their life was in their countries and before they came here, and maybe sometime I might go visit. So I go to the coffee chats at the International Institute.
It's a coffee chat at the International Institute, and you have coffee, and it's a chat. Is it an organized chat, or do you just sit?
It's an organized chat. Yeah, it's an organized chat that international students, undergraduate, graduate students, or PhDs can come in, and they'll have icebreakers. They will have an activity. It's just kind of basically to get to know them.
And even if you don't know anyone, you just walk in.
Yep, just walk in. And it's just coming in just with an open mind. And I met a lot of students from China. I met a lot of students from India, South America, which is what I love. I love meeting other South American students.
Yeah, that sounds great. Any other places? Any other places where you hung out, met people?
A lot of it is just also friends that I meet in courses, as well as events and conferences in the School of Public Health.
Oh, right. I got two questions that I'm going to ask you all. Then we're going to wrap things up. You've been so generous. I mean, this has been a fantastic conversation. One question is going to be, what was your most uncomfortable experience during your undergrad career, and how did you get through that? Okay. The other question is, what's been your most wonderful experience? They're the things that gives you the best sense of pride. And then there's one more question. It's going to be, what advice would you give first year student you? Okay. So we got three more questions. Let's see. Noelle, I feel like you know that uncomfortable experience.
Oh, yeah.
Please let us into your uncomfortable world.
Instead of one uncomfortable experience, it's kind of just the overall general feeling of asking for help. I did a lot of things on my own, from college applications to everything in high school pretty much. And then coming to college, and again, with CAPS and whatnot, before college, I've never really had any sort of mental health issues or anything like that. But at U of M, I think they do a really great job of destigmatizing it, since there is sometimes a stigma around it. But at U of M, it's just a casual thing, oh, did you go to CAPS? Or, oh, did you do this or did you do that? Or did you ask this person about that? And I know that I have like a very strong presence, so it was kind of hard for me to network at first because I'm like, I don't know what questions to ask. I don't know, like, I don't really have, being first gen, I don't really have the people around me who have like the insider info on all the deets on how to navigate college. But again, being in MRADS was a really great experience for me. The director, Amanda Lowe, she's fantastic. She would always ask me about mental health, chat, or did you go to this event? And I think U of M just does a really great job at destigmatizing a lot of things and making resources readily available to you, whether that's through email or in person at festival or things like that. And it makes it easier to ask for help. But again, I was like, I'm independent, I know what I'm doing, I don't need help, but really I did. And so asking for help was very uncomfortable for me, but I got through it.
So I want to know the specific time, the event, the something where you actually had to ask for help and just that process. So if you're open to sharing that, because I would imagine there was an event where you really needed to get that help.
Yeah. In MRADS, my first year, you are able to conduct research for academic credit or for work study. And so I was like, oh, I'm going to do work study. I'm going to get paid on the side. It's going to be great. I don't have to ask like my siblings or my parents for money so often or something like that. And what happened is I turned in a scholarship check that was addressed to the university and me. So when it's addressed to the university, things get a little wonky because they are like, oh, well, you have extra aid on the outside. So we're going to take some of the aid that we're giving you from the university and we're going to take that away because you got these people over here helping you. When really it's like, no, I need all the help that I need. So I had turned in a scholarship, I think maybe for $4,000 or something like that. And my work study was only like for $3,000. So they're like, oh, you don't need work study, no big deal. And I was like, but this is how I planned on paying for school. This is how I planned on paying for groceries and, going and doing fun activities with my friends and whatnot. So I remember I was in Amanda's office, the director of MRADS, and she's like, yeah, there's something weird. You're not on our work study list anymore. And I just bawled my eyes out because I was like, this was supposed to be me. I was supposed to be independent. I didn't want to ask. Again, I was uncomfortable with asking for help, whether financially, mentally, and she gave me a whole list of resources of people to talk to, organizations on campus that can help me, other scholarship opportunities or ways to navigate it, and even her as a resource. I could always walk into her office, no problem, talk to her about it. So it was kind of losing an opportunity that I was really looking forward to and having that sort of financial independence and not having to ask outside resources for that.
Yeah, and just so other people can understand, work study is part of your financial aid package. So when you have that work study, you're eligible to do those jobs. But if you have that additional money, then you're not eligible for a work study job. Is that correct?
Yep, it's all about how much you have, what your financial aid gives you or whatnot. And now I have work study, thankfully, but my freshman year I didn't, just because I had turned in so many scholarships, like one-time scholarships from high school or reoccurring ones that they're like, well, you have all these scholarships coming in, so you don't need work study. And I'm like, no, I need all of it. I need everything I can get. So it's like I was poor, but not poor enough. So
the same thing happened to me too.
Oh, yeah. This is great. So, Mary, why don't we jump to you? Tell us about your most uncomfortable experience and how you got through that.
Well, I was going to say the most uncomfortable experience is just kind of like the test taking and like how colleges are kind of different than high school, because when you're in high school, you have like a test every week and it's not like that big of your grade. But then coming into college, you have like 3 exams, and then those exams are 95% of your grade. So I got a lot of test anxiety, and that was probably like the most uncomfortable I felt.
Did you perform on your tests, or did the anxiety interfere with your ability to take?
It definitely affected how I did. Especially, I took calc my first semester, and in high school I was actually really like good in math. I did really well. But coming there, it was like completely different because it was all in a curve, and my test anxiety would just affect it so much because I would be taking practice exams and I would be doing so well on the practice exams, like acing the practice exams, and then like actually being in the atmosphere with like they're like, okay, you have like 30 minutes left, and it was all anxiety. I
How'd you
didn't do
get
as
through it?
well. Well, I'm still trying to get through it. I still have test anxiety, but I just kind of like I go to a library instead of doing it in my dorm and stuff like that, and just kind of time myself and put myself like in the environment that it would like that would like mostly apply.
Let me ask you, Noelle and Duey, or Cristian, all three of you. Mary is our youngest conversationalist, panelist. Do you have any advice for her on what she could do to help with her test anxiety, given the resources at the University of Michigan and what you've dealt with?
Just say, I'm Mary frickin' Show, and walk in there. Brush it off your shoulder and just sit down and take that bad boy.
That doesn't really help me. Like I tried that before. Like I'd be like, all right, you got this. Like you were so good at math in high school. Like you know what to do, But it just kind of like, I don't know, just anxiety problems, I guess.
Just know that everyone else is freaking out too.
Yeah, that's like, yeah, you're right.
Anyone else have a suggestion?
Honestly, those practice tests you're doing, just do as many as you think you need, and then do a few more. And then use any resources you have access to, including tutors. If you can get a tutor, highly recommend it.
Did you use tutoring, Dewey?
Yes. I got a tutor through Success Connects, and they helped me through the class I failed. They were great. They helped me understand the material a lot better.
Which one did you fail?
Stats 250.
And then you got the tutoring, and then did you have to take it again?
That remains to be seen. Well, right. I'm applying for grad school now, so we'll see.
Right, but you feel like you could take it if you had to?
I feel like I would do a lot better now, yeah.
Yeah. So Mary, do you know there's the tutoring and the resources there?
Yeah, I would go to for math, there's the math lab, and I would go there for help. Like after my first exam, which is the one I did not the worst on. I did really bad on the final. I don't know why, but I digress. But after the first exam, I went to math lab way more often than I actually did before it. So it did help.
Yeah, that's great. Well, there's these amazing places. I mean, there's all these tutors. And the thing that's so cool is when you have seniors who are doing this, like they're brilliant, and they're patient and they really want to help. So like tapping into the resource, especially when you're at a school like the University of Michigan, and there's people who just want to help so badly. I think just like getting your personal tutor, and then Noelle gets you all pumped up for when you walk in. It's like, boom, you got it. All right. Who else? I got to ask you your most uncomfortable experience. Cristian and Duey. How about Cristian? I know Duey, you've got it ready, Duey, but Cristian, give me yours.
So one of the things that I kind of struggled with a lot, and last semester, or last year actually, was having all these assignments come up with my testing as well as another paper due. And so I feel very uncomfortable asking for extensions. I think that's something that I'm very nervous of asking a professor, a faculty, or a graduate student to I want an extension, not because I'm not slacking. It's just because I have so much work I need to do by the end of this week that, I don't know if I can be able to submit a good paper for me to get a good grade. And I'm pretty good at writing papers, but, sometimes I just need an extension. And so I did come to one of the office hours of my professor and ask him, I didn't beat around the bush a little too much, and then he just told me just tell me what you want. And I told him I need an extension, give me a weekend, and I'll be able to get this done. And he said why are you so nervous? You got it. Yeah, just make sure you ace your tests and you can finish my paper by Monday. So I think that was something that it's just a struggle. I think people don't ever realize that people are open to really talking to you and understanding your circumstances about that.
That's awesome. That's really helpful. You just ask. And again, it's like, it's so hard. I think when you're such a high achiever and you're so used to working within the rules, to ask someone to make an exception can be shameful.
Yeah. Yeah. In high school, you would think like, like, no, you missed the deadline, you get an F or whatever grade you get for that. But I think when you're in college, that just changes a lot. The pressure to deliver, we want you to deliver good, like a good paper, a good assignment. And if that takes a little extra time, most of the time they're pretty understanding.
That's so cool. And they give you the extension. That's
Yeah,
great.
and they give you the extension. Yeah. I mean, earlier the better. Sometimes some professors are very nitpicky about it, but for the most part, they're very, very understanding about it.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I think professors do a good job understanding that we're human. Things happen. And they say it too. They're like, you're human. We know things pop up. If you need an extension, just let us know. And we're like, okay. And I typed out an email for like an hour debating if I should send it or not. And then I did, and it was like, no big deal. Within minutes, they replied like, yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
I was like pressing over an hour to press send, and it was no big deal.
Right. If you had done the work instead of writing the email for the extension,
I could have gotten.
you might not have needed the extension.
I know.
Duey, tell me about your most uncomfortable experience, man. How did you get through it? Did we already talk about it?
We have not yet.
Yes.
So for me, it was learning the hidden curriculum of college. It's like flexing your social muscle and like networking and learning about like professional resources, because coming from a first gen background from a low income community, you don't know how to network. It's just kind of a thing you don't do. And I kind of am still working through it, admittedly, just by putting myself out there and like getting more face-to-face interactions as face-to-face as we can be, I guess.
I think this COVID thing and all of this virtual stuff gives you even more opportunities.
Oh, totally. Like, cause now it's like, I don't have to drive down to meet you. It's just like, hey, you want to meet at like Tuesday at noon? And it's like, yeah, sure. And then we just do a Zoom call. And it's just learning about professional resources like the alumni network, like it's a website that connects all alums, and they're not all alums, but alums who opt in to talk to you about their job and like professional resources and stuff like that. And it's, just things like that.
Have you been reaching out to alums to ask them about their jobs and careers?
I haven't actually yet. That's something I need to work on. And it's just like, I've been meaning to.
Yeah.
It's just a little? It's just a little, it's scary to just cold call someone and be like, hey, can you like talk to me on like next week about your job and like how you got there and like any recommendations for getting into the field and just things like that.
Yeah. I think that you have so much going for you. I mean, first of all, being part of this amazing culture and community. People love Michigan. They love it. And also being a first-gen student, people who have been down this path and have gotten to other places know just how difficult it is, and they want to help you. So like you've got that going for you. The only piece is the curiosity, the love of what it is you're looking to learn. And if you have a real curiosity and a passion for what someone's doing in a cool place, and really think of like, what is it that you want to learn and know, and approach it more of, I'm so excited to learn about what it's like to be you as opposed to anyone doing something for you, changes the whole game. It's like, even with this, like, with all of you, I just want to learn about you. I'm just so curious about your stories. And I think that when you approach it where you're curious about someone's stories or they're from a similar place, changes the whole game, man. It's just like, you're just another soul who's just trying to learn. And if somebody's open to sharing, great. And if they're not, there's something else going on in their life. Really what you're doing is giving someone an opportunity to share their joy and their light. And when you look at it that way, it's very low stakes, and you'll meet amazing people because you're all amazing. Like you're all, you're just your bravery and your stories and who you are and how you've gotten here. I mean, I could talk to you for 3-4 hours. I'm not going to, because I know you've got lives and things to do, and we've already gone a little bit late. I'm going to do our last two questions, and we could do this. I think I asked everyone they're uncomfortable, right? We cover that. This is going to be speed round because I do want to respect your time. And these things just pop up. They're just like sparks. Your joy, the thing that gave you the most joy, the thing that you're really most proud of. Cristian, I want to talk about your going abroad. If that's not what it is, you could talk about other things. But you were saying that you've been able to see so many places through being a part of clubs and organizations. You've been able to travel and see the world. If that's not what it is, then tell me about that anyway. But if that's what sparks the joy and makes you feel great, then you can run with it.
That is, no, you're right on the money. I traveling abroad, the school has really given me the opportunity to travel abroad more than I ever thought I would be. And you know, the Michigan has the money laying around. I tell everyone, like, Michigan, it's like, you know, money is in the floor. You just gotta know how to pick it up and know where to pick it up. Because there's opportunities. Like, there's even a scholarship to go to Antarctica to do like some biology project for like a month or 2 months over the summer. And so I got the chance to go to Ecuador. Actually, the school of engineering, the Center for Social Engaged Design, had a program, and they sent me and three other undergrad engineering students abroad in Ecuador. So I got to be there for 2 months, and then I got to go to Israel for a month to work in a hospital. In Michigan, you know, they offered the funding. I told them, like, here's my proposal, here's my project, here's the organization I'm working with, and they said, yeah, here's your money, you can go. And yeah, like, that's a highlight of, like, really the ability to travel.
Wow.
Like, I have this the Ecuador project I worked in. I had my deliverable, I had my research project all laid out, and then I asked the school, like, okay, I want to present this at a conference, and it's like, okay. So I presented at a conference in Hawaii, and I presented at a conference in Chile, and they paid for that. So I was able to be able to do all these opportunities in Michigan. Like, that is a highlight of, like, my whole time here.
Oh, I got to drill deeper into that, because I know that there are a lot of people from places, from small communities, where the idea of going abroad and the idea of traveling seems very far away. But, like, Cristian, you got it once. You're like, I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it again. It's almost like a game, right? Hawaii.
Yeah.
On the conference in Hawaii. Yep.
I pulled that off. I was able to find a conference related to the research I did, which is environmental health, environmental engineering, and then I was able to present that.
Not Grand Forks, North Dakota.
Nope. Hawaii and Honolulu and Santiago, Chile. I was there for about 5 days each.
That's sweet, man. Hit for your hotel, everything else.
That's right.
Beautiful. So, Noelle, tell me about that joyful, wonderful experience.
Yeah, so I was in the Summer Bridge program, which is a transitional program, kind of like Duey, how you were in MSTEM. It's before your freshman year, fall semester. So you kind of get a leg up on everybody else because you're getting acclimated to the campus before, and it's geared towards first gen, low income. But there were people from Puerto Rico, from out of state, from here, from there, or they were very wealthy, or it's not like refined to a T, or you check all these boxes. So from there, I was able to meet such a diverse group of people, and all the athletes were there because they needed to start getting ready for summer training, getting ready for the fall. So I was able to meet all of those people and have a great time. So we're all Summer Bridge babies is what we call ourselves. And so there was one night that where everyone on my floor or a couple floors above, we just grabbed mattresses. And I had a pretty large room in Summer Bridge, and our beds were lofted. So we had, I think, like 6 mattresses in there. We just piled them in, fitted them in our room, and we had 20 people in there having just a sleepover, a slumber party in our room, just talking about this, talking about that, about life, being first gen, the things that we've come across, just like a casual talk like this. And that was really, really a great experience. So
what a great tone to set early on.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Mary, what's been your most prideful, joyful experience this first year, your first year? Yeah.
It was probably getting my research position, because I, like, coming into college, I always wanted to do neurology. And through Europe, I was able to apply to the neurosciences institution, where I became a research assistant, and I was dealing with, like, rat brains, and yeah, it was great. I loved doing it so much.
That's great. I love it. As a first year student, you applied to be a research assistant. You know, you kind of have this softer tone to you, but, like, from getting on campus, from the cultural challenges that you've dealt with, to dealing with the academic challenges to thinking you can get this research assistantship and you just do it. Like that's amazing, Mary. It's awesome.
Thank you.
Dewey, tell me, what's been that most prideful, joyful, wonderful experience you've had, University of Michigan?
Really similar to Noelle, I loved MSTEM. Every part of it. I will always be part of the MSTEM cohort, part of the MSTEM family. I have kind of a similar story to Noelle. It's not like a sleepover. We're on North Campus, and one of the dorms has like a kind of a home movie theater. So we all just got together and just played movies in it one night, and it was just a great way to start off the year.
Yeah, that's nice. You go back to the first, not even the first week, the time before summer. I know that there are a lot of students who don't get to have those experiences because of COVID. So, really helping them to see how to get involved, seeing you, how friendly you are. I hope this helps them to know that you're all available and accessible. If you could go back in time and give freshman you a tip, just one tip, and we'll make this really short and sweet, what would you tell you that would have helped you to manage your transition and challenges? What would you have told you that maybe would have made things a little bit easier? Cristian, what would you have told freshman you if you can go back in time?
I think I would have told to really, if you have something you want to pursue, there's opportunity to pursue it. I think never put yourself down in whatever you think you want to do and you think you can't. But there really is an opportunity. Like, for example, to be able to travel as much as I did, which baffles a lot of my friends. It really, because I came here because I love to travel. I just love to go abroad. And I had that opportunity, and I just, if I have the will, there's a way. And so I think having that tip is never settle yourself to what you have.
Yeah, that's awesome. Mary, what about you? What would you tell you?
I would just kind of be like, you cannot be as independent as you think you are. Like, you have so many resources. If you don't understand something, just go ask someone, because I've always been doing everything myself. So, like, if you do need help, like Noelle was talking about earlier, just go and seek the help you need.
Yeah. Well, you're surrounded by people who want to help you. I know even after our time together, like legit, I would reach out to them because they're brilliant and they're really kind. You can tell everybody here really wants everyone to be successful, and you've got like a great resource of upperclassmen here. So I hope you'll take advantage of that. Dewey, what would you tell you?
Take advantage of every resource and opportunity you come across. Like, don't say no to it. I wish I expanded my interests so much more during freshman year, because I was like, no, I got to stay home to do work, when really I didn't. You had it done. You just didn't want to go out. But take advantage of every opportunity you can.
Yeah, that's awesome. And just one more thing I want, just you, Dewey, if I can help you in any way, if I can help any of you, but like the professional piece, or even like giving you a pep talk, or just like, even beyond this, it's like, dude, like you're capable of anything. And these people who are making themselves available through the alumni networks, I mean, really, these people are just like you in the future. They are you in the future. So if you want to meet you in the future, then give those people a chance, because they're there for you. It's amazing. All right. I hope you don't mind me saying that. Is that all right?
I don't. Thank you.
Yeah. I mean, because it's like, I believe it. I see it, it's just, once you guys see it, it's like everything's easy, It's like, it's easy. All right. Noelle, what would you tell you if you could go back in time and give first year Noelle advice?
Say yes and go for it. Even if it makes you feel uncomfortable, or it's something you've never done before, just do it. Have fun. Get a new experience, and maybe it can turn into something that you'll keep continuing. So. Yeah.
That sounds great. Lots of adventure. You all are having those experiences. You are so kind and generous to spend all this time visiting. Just so everybody can know one more time, if any of you have any questions, who's watching this, Noelle, Dewey, Mary, Cristian, are you open to people reaching out to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, please
Absolutely.
do.
Okay, wonderful. So they're the opposite of rejection. They're totally safe. They want to help you. They've included ways that you can get in touch with them. And I'm just so grateful that all of you could be here. So thank you everyone for being here. And for those who are watching, I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm in your corner. This has been the University of Michigan, a college conversation on Before College TV Live. I'm Harlan Cohen, and I look forward to continuing the conversation. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Thanks, Harlan.
Everybody.